can hear me? Yes. Welcome. So really glad that the ones who are here are going to get a very special treat of being at the front of the class for this afternoon. So, and one thing I can say is we have a number of speakers that and guests presenting this morning. So there will be, I think it won't go unrewarded your time here this morning. Fantastic. So my name is Arya Chittisy from Engenesis, and I'm going to be going through a few things this morning. Number one is we're going to go through a little bit about a bit of a recap of Engenesis and Engenesis Investments and Engenesis Thrive. So Engenesis Investments is about how we work with startups and help them get funding. Engenesis Thrive is all about high-performing teams and human capital. And then finally, we'll be doing the pitching workshop this afternoon, which will be vital for you guys who have been working away in the background, and you're going to be on, in the hot seat speaking this afternoon to the judges. So without further ado, what I'd like to do is introduce Ashkan Tashvir, who is the CEO and founder of Engenesis. Please welcome him.
Thank you. So, welcome. Before I start talking about the investment, I'm going to share a little bit of story of Engenesis. When we started thinking of Engenesis, we wanted to be a venture builder. We wanted to build businesses with people. And then we knew that we were going to be in the area of scalable businesses, so we knew that we need technology. I had a bit of background in technology, and we had Engenesis Technologies as well. So Engenesis Ventures, that you're going to experience it today in the workshop with Arya, and Engenesis Technologies. But then we realized that majority of the businesses that they cannot lift their startups up, they cannot succeed in what they're going to work on, was human capital concepts. By that I mean we dealt with jealousy, we dealt with not being resilient enough. Teams couldn't be built by themselves. We needed to work with them to ensure that there is a level of persistence. It was a matter of faith. So because it was so crucial, we started Engenesis Thrive, which is the arm of the business through which we help startups in how to build teams, how to increase their performance through coaching and mentoring. Recently, we launched a tool named Aurora that John is going to give you a little bit of information about it, which is a being profile test. Every human being has different ways of being, and with this tool we measure 12 different aspects of being, so that then we can work on the areas that that particular person or a team requires training. But the last arm of Engenesis that we are about to officially launch, most probably in mid-November, is our investment arm. So far, we were investing in businesses in a way that, for example, we had an invoice for equity, or we had Engenesis Accelerator Fund. It was like match funding. If a team or a startup were investing, like, let's say 50K in their businesses, we were giving them up to 50%, like 50K worth of services. But with Engenesis investment, that we're going to launch it in November, we're going to create an angel investment syndicate, a pool of fund. Then we're going to have criterias, of course, and then we invest fund capital in businesses. Please come to me, Arya, and we can give you more information if you like. Thank you very much.
So before we go into the next session, I really want to zoom out and just share with you how I see things, how I see you guys being here, because here we are in Australia, already having your 2 feet in this country. We are amongst the most privileged in the world, right? The most wealthy. We have resources here. After we've taken care of ourselves, we have this opportunity to go and contribute to others. And not only that, here you are at Macquarie University, somewhere where we are on the cutting edge of solving problems for humanity and this ability to get resources together and really do something for the world. So the conversation I'd like to have with you here is, it's really important if you see yourself as either part of a high performance team now or in the future, right? Because whether you see yourself inside a corporation and you're leading a team, or you're sharing your ideas, or you are going to be the one at the forefront of your company, this is a very important conversation to have. How do you, in the face of challenges, stress, so many different things, continue to be a high performer and lead a high performance team? And to start off, I'll share with you a bit of my own backstory, which really had me resonate with what we do at Engenesis Thrive today. And so I thought, okay, to be a high performer, to have a high performance team, I had this idea. Surely I can go out, and if I have the money, then I can go and hire all these talented people, and then we can work together and build a great product, right? So there I was. We were quite well funded at that point, and I sat there interviewing dozens upon dozens of people, looking at their resumes, and it's arduous work, right? So, no, that person's no good, that person's no good. Okay, this is someone who looks good on paper, interview them. And eventually, there I am going, okay, fantastic, I've got a team of 5 extraordinary people, surely I can go and create my high performance team. So there they are building the product, their heads are in, doing sketches and putting post-it notes up on the wall. And there they are coding all these lines of code. And I think, great, we're busy, we're doing things, we're starting to build our product. And we're spending a lot of money, but it's going to good use. And I say, okay, how long is this going to take? I'm talking to my project manager, and he says, oh, look, give us 2 to 3 months. So the weeks roll on by, and eventually I'm sitting there ready to see our product. And he walks in, and I go, oh, where's the team? What's going on? He says, Aria, look, we need another month. Just give us another month. We're going well, but just give us another month. And I said, okay, you guys are just getting started. Looks like you're doing some very good work. Let's do that. Another 30 days roll on, and I'm in the meeting room again, waiting for the product. And I say, oh, how are we going? Oh, Aria, this unexpected problems. We need just 1 more month. Yep, just 1 more month. And I go, okay, look, this is the last month you've got. And it doesn't take much imagination to know where this goes. Another month later, there we are, double the time expected. And I say, where's the product? We need another month yet again, right? So it doesn't take a super trained manager to know what's going on, that something is unworkable. And at that point, we are investing as much money, more money than we ever have in this full team, doing this. So I'm sitting there and I go, okay, bring me the designers. I'm going to try to find out what's going wrong here. So I'm sitting there with the designers and I say, do you guys know what's going on? Why is there such a big delay? And they go, oh, look, we've done our job. We've handed it to the developers. It must be something wrong with the developers, right? And I go, okay, whatever, get out of here. Bring me the developers. The development team's sitting there. And I say, do you know why we said it's going to be 2 to 3 months? Here we're at 6 months and we still don't have a product. And they go, oh, look, but the designers designed all of these things that we couldn't even build in the first place, right? So I can go on and on and on, but I just wanted to give you a little snapshot of all this time, the effort that goes into, creating a product, a business. And yeah, even though you're paying this big money, it didn't take long for me to come to a realization that the model of trying to just pay for talents and exchange their services just does not work. You think about getting the top soccer players in the world and just putting them in the team. Even though they're amazingly skilled, if it's their first day, they will get beaten by a standard club because that club have been talking to each other, they can communicate, they can play as a team and win. So one thing that we came to realize is that it's not about having a team of champions, but rather building a champion team. And so inside Engenesis Thrive, this was the conversation we started to look into, which is that the top 3 issues we get from startups is 1, I don't have enough funding, right? If I have money, then all my dreams can come true, yeah? Second one is we just need to build a better product. If we just had more developers, we could release something that's better and everyone will love it. The third one is all about, I've got a product, I've spent all this money, but I don't have a customer, right? So the business model, the product market fit is the issue. Now, these 3 things are all definitely important, which is why we address them in Engenesis Ventures, working with their business model, Engenesis Investments, working with their funding, and Engenesis Technology, helping them with the product build. But what we came to see was that beneath the iceberg, Engenesis Thrive, the conversation about human capital, the conversation about team capital, are people making egoistic, sort of self-centered decisions, right? Is the communication lacking so much that we can't get any productivity out of the team? This was the question, this was the area where we were seeing many startup companies fail. And as a result, even though they had the money, they had customers lined up, and they had a product, they still couldn't fully get to market. So it's something that isn't talked about so much, but in our mission to support startups through the early growth stage, we realized it had to be taken care of. So I'd like to now move into what we're doing at the forefront, and it's really exciting for me to share with you at Engenesis what we're doing inside Engenesis Thrive to deal with this in the real world. And this is a really important piece if you are establishing a company or establishing a group and you want to set a culture of high performance. So what do I mean by culture? One way we look at it is what are the behavioral norms we are setting? So if I'm there and I give you a task and I rely on you and you don't deliver that task, right, is that a normal thing? And as you guys would know, in some cultures, it's a completely normal thing to do that. Oh, okay, there's a delay. Oh, you know, there's something that came up and we couldn't deliver our task, right? It's become quite normalized in many company cultures. But it doesn't take a lot of imagination to see that that little piece of non-productivity gets times by 12 times in the hour, gets times by another 36, 84 in a few days, weeks, and it snowballs into a huge loss of productivity for the entire company. Yeah. So these are some of the questions we received as we were speaking to business owners, corporations about their high-performance culture. So the first was, how do we establish a culture where team members work well together and get things done? And the second was, if they were already established, how do we change our existing culture into one of high performance? And when you go and look at what we are doing to adjust a performance culture, you realize the existing tool set is blunt. Let me give you a few examples. Employee engagement surveys is one of the biggest tools used there, which bluntly tells people whether the employees give a shit or not, right? It's not going to help them go to high performance, right? Another one is all about 360-degree reviews, yeah? So there are all these things, but when you zoom out, you realize that none of them are designed to actually move a company into a high-performance company culture. And as we delved into this area, there was one thing that caught our eye and we decided to focus on. And this is inside of studies in about the last 1.5 decades in the Harvard Business School by Professor Michael Jensen. And they look at this question. Even when we train people to be leaders, they end up knowing about leadership. But that's a very different thing to being a leader. Yeah? So you can give people tips, you can give people tricks, you can tell people, hey, use this line to manage your team. But it's very different, and you know it. When somebody walks in the room as a leader, you can sense their presence and things get done, right? So this was the basis for for looking at, okay, how could we work on these ways of being? We know that they're hard to speak about, they're hard to articulate, but how could we bring this into high performance culture to make that difference? And as we went into it, we realized that if you went to try to change behavior, think about the dozens, the hundreds, the thousands of behaviors you would have to change. It's close to impossible. And in fact, if behavior change and policy and processes was the only thing necessary, then things like what they're finding in the Royal Commission wouldn't happen, right? The policies are there, the processes are there, but yet people avoid those and still the results don't happen. So what we have done is we have looked at this and we have turned it into a profiling tool, a unique being profile, so that people can map who they are being, the ways that they are being that impact their performance. And to make it really simple, at the moment people answer 174 questions on this Aurora being profile. They have a report that gives them an insight into 12 aspects of their being, and they work with a Thrive coach or mentor to make a difference in that area. Now, we have pulled together a lot of different colleagues and schools of thinking into the background, into the back end of this. And I'd like to introduce John Lowe, who has a background as a philosopher, a mathematician, but also has a huge passion for what it takes to transform performance culture for an individual, team, and organization. And he's going to share a bit about what went into creating Aurora. John. Let me get this for you.
So firstly, I'm not an academic mathematician and philosopher, and my career has been in the corporate world. I'm a systems designer and thinker and developer, and I was one of the people who built the world's first fully electronic global financial markets. I was the architect and engineer of the trading program of the Swiss Stock Exchange, and I was also at the Australian Stock Exchange. And I've been a VP in Silicon Valley in a famous global tech when they did Play on the PC stack, and it was run by the founders of Charles Schwab & Co. And it's curious that I'm working with Engenesis, and what I see about that is the Aurora is actually the most important piece of work in my life, because it's about people, and Engenesis is about purpose and impacting the world through entrepreneurship and innovation. And one of the key things about that is, like Ashkan and Arya talk about human capital, like to understand and to empower people. We've designed Aurora to provide an insight into, like a mirror into your soul or psyche. And this is a tremendous problem, and it's at the intersection of data and mathematics and philosophy, the type of philosophy that deals with being, like ontology and phenomenology, and also psychology. And so one of the things that we did, the first problem in this, I'm going to talk about from a designer's perspective, one of the first problems of this is to get ways of being, such as peace of mind, which occur as very fuzzy concepts, like everyone wants peace of mind, and it's somehow elusive, and we're saying we're going to measure it. So the first challenge that we had is getting tight, rigorous definitions. And Arya mentioned Harvard Business School. Michael Jensen founded the markets unit at Harvard Business School, and he's become a transformational leader and runs courses on being a leader worldwide, they rigorously defined 4 ways of being that we've used. And they are integrity, responsibility, authenticity, and being up to something bigger than me. Now, that being up to something bigger than me is something that drives entrepreneurs and innovation. And it's therefore important to be able to measure that. And so some of the other ways of being that we've measured, like work peace of mind, and we've researched those as well. And so across the board on the 12 ways, we've got rigorous definitions. The next thing about it is to think of ways of being, like your peace of mind, like it's not measured in isolation with you being alone. Like being is being there, being in the world. And one of the most famous philosophers, Martin Heidegger, came up with that term, like being there. So the there is wherever you find yourself in the world, like in your workplace, in your relationships, like with children, with parents, in sport, in social situations. And they're all correlated. Like you can't have high performance in organisations, in startups, if your being is out and you're, say, upset in a relationship, like it actually impacts your performance. And so we've actually set out to measure that. And some of the things, the ways that we measure that is, so the Continental School of Philosophy and Psychology and Psychiatry deals with anxiety and fear. So one of the things that we do is we measure the impact of anxiety and fear on your expression of ways of being. So one of the ways is actually self-expression. If you're afraid, you're going to be suppressed. And so the aim of this is to provide a mirror for people to see the areas where they're afraid, and then they can get performance coaching to be able to make a difference. And so some of the other things that we measure is how much you care. Like caring about something really makes a difference to the outcome. And if you're engaged in an organisation where your people don't care, like they're in it for financial reward or they're in it for personal agendas, then it's probably not going to work. And then another like mood that we're calling it is anxiety, and Martin Heidegger called that anxiety the dark queen of moods. So anxiety is sort of that nebulous thing which nags at you that all people have, like worry, and we set out to measure that. Now the end game of this is to develop an app that like it's like a pocket oracle where it interacts with you, that it discovers your ways of being through the interaction and then works out your patterns of success and failure and then begins to forecast what's going to happen for you as a way to empowering you. So thank you for your time.
Thank you so much, John. Excellent. So these were the 12 ways of being that John was referring to. And I mean, you can have a chance to experience them. So what we have done is for the hackathon, we have put it up. We will know that you guys are coming in through the event, and we are putting in a free interpretation of your Aurora profile, if you wish to explore what it looks like of being a high-performing entrepreneur or team member and so on. So if you are interested, please pull out your phone and go and visit aurora.io. So that's ORORA.io. And just make sure you go to take test and register your account as an individual. That's important because there are a few different account types. And once you go in, you can start your being profile, right? And a few last things to share around this is that when you go and do the sums, it's very basic maths, but I won't bore you with the calculation. But if you save a team member 1 hour per day, right? Think about the time of firefighting when there's chaos going on and there were miscommunications and you have to solve something. Everyone has to stop what they're doing and solve it. Things like poor communication that you've gone and done work that shouldn't have been done, right? If we save 1 hour a day, by the time we've hit 8 people, a team of 8, for all of them, then we actually could have funded 1 additional person on our team, all right? So it's a very real thing. These little things that often go unnoticed make a big difference, especially to a young startup's performance, where they are literally missing out on additional team members because of the inefficiencies in how they're dealing with each other. Fantastic. So we are about to, in a couple minutes, go into the pitching workshop, which is going to be, as I said, quite invaluable to you guys in the afternoon. What I'm going to do is pause this here. If you do, again, if you're interested, just jump on the aurora.io link, and for you guys, you'll get the free interpretation session to understand how that works for you. But I'm going to have a quick break for a couple minutes because we're going to dive into the pitching workshop, and that's going to be another quite intense session. So apart from that, thank you very much, and we'll restart in another couple minutes.